For the latest film interviews, reviews, and everything making news in pop culture, subscribe to Film Companion now.
I have all his films. I have I have right here these two, and I have King of Pigs and Fake. So I have like my big massive library is behind the scene. We're fixing it. So I've seen King of Pigs, Fake, Seoul Station, Train to Busan, and Peninsula. All 5 films.
하기가 좀 편해진 것 같고 각자의 파트
Because I do these different types of formats, I feel like each one gives me sort of an emotional break from the former one. So it's kind of a healing and recovering process as well. And it gives me new energy.
Anurag, director Yeon, such a pleasure to have both of you on Film Companion. Anurag, I'm going to start with you. Tell me why you're such a big fan.
I have all his films. I have I have right here these two, and I have King of Pigs and Fake. So I have like my big massive library is behind the scene. We're fixing it. So I've seen King of Pigs, Fake, Seoul Station, Train to Busan, and Peninsula. All 5 films. And because he's a very strong, unique voice, because other than making genre movies, he's extremely political. And he tells his story, his politics through his film. Like if you see Fake talks about things. This godman who's taking away money that's meant for for the people and things, and how he goes away. It will remind you a lot of what's going on in India at the moment. And King of Pigs talks about bullying in a way. It's very shocking in the sense it reminds you of if you see the style of Satoshi Kon, like when you see Pacific Blue, we saw the other night here, and we had a whole Satoshi Kon festival in my house. And then we were trying to do parallels, and then after that I started showing his films to my people. So there was a kind of a parallel in terms of taking animation to where animation normally doesn't go.
사토시 콘 감독을 너무 좋아했어가지고 어렸을 때 권사토시 감독의 영향을 되게 많이 받았고 사실은
You mentioned director Satoshi Kon, and I've long been a fan of him since I was very young. I was inspired by a lot of those movies, and I think that was what led me to create films like The King of Pigs.
뭐 얘기 들어보니까 제가 뭐 넷플릭스에서 되게 재미있게 본 시리즈 공포 시리즈.
I also heard, and I was delighted to find out that you were part of the director. You partly directed the Goal.
I was one of the producers. Yeah.
되게 재미있고 되게 그 초반부에 접근하는 미스터리한 방식들이 너무 이제 흥미롭고 재밌어가지고 사실은 그 구로사와 기요시 감독의 큐어 같은 작품도 좀
I really enjoyed, especially the beginning part of Ghoul, the series. I thought that it was very intriguing and very a mysterious approach to the start of the series. It's actually something that I also prefer, the style of the beginning. So that was very impressive. And when you look at the format of Ghoul, it reminded me of the piece Cure by director Kurosawa Hiroshi.
구로사와 기요시.
Kiyoshi. Yeah. I love Kiyoshi. And I will make sure I tell this to the director. I'm the producer of the series, but the director would be so happy to know that this is how you felt, and I would pass on the compliment.
Anurag, your day is made. Director Yeon, I have a question for you. You know what fascinated me about the 2 films, Train to Busan and Peninsula, was the fact that you, in the middle of a zombie movie, put in really emotional scenes and great family drama. I mean, I think Train to Busan is perhaps the first zombie film in which I've cried. How do you do that? How is the challenge of doing that? And why is it important to put that into a genre zombie movie?
기본적으로 근데 이제 좀비 영화라고 하는 거는 어떤 종말 사회가 무너져 내리는 과정들을 그리는 장르라고.
When you look at zombie films, most of them portray the post-apocalyptic world, the end of the world as you know it, and also the process of societies coming apart. And because the family is the smallest unit that consists a society, I actually think that it goes very well together in terms of the material. And when you look at post-apocalyptic films, ironically, I think that is actually one of the genres that are better fit to portray humanism. So I actually think that those two go very well hand in hand.
Anurag,
Yeah.
what surprised you about Peninsula?
No, I'm a film geek and cinephile also. So when I see Peninsula, I'm seeing like everything that influences him. Like I see a kind of a zombie movie meets a heist movie meets a Mad Max Thunderdome, Fury Road,
Escape from New
all those
York.
things together. And the most amazing thing about Peninsula was that so much of it was animation. So much of it was animation. It was so incredibly done. I was hoping the little girl from Train to Busan grew up into that older daughter in the taxi, but that wasn't so. He separated the stories. But we were totally blown by the film. We saw it right here. So
뭐 사실은 뭐 그렇게 봐도 사실은 무방한 게 사실은 민정의 가족의 구성원들을 보면은
I would have to say that it would be, you can definitely see it being the little girl from Train to Busan grow into Minjung, because if you look at Minjung, you can tell that she has her biological daughter, Eugene, and then Judy, of course, is not her biological daughter. And so you can really allude that to the relationship between Sungkyung in Train to Busan. So although it doesn't say outright that they are the same character, I would definitely say that it would be okay for you to assume that.
oh, that's
반도
good.
반도 같은 경우는 사실은 뭐 제가 좋아하는 어떤 영화, 애니메이션, 만화들의 좀 집합 같은 느낌.
And I would have to say that for Peninsula, it truly is a conglomerate of all of the things that I have been inspired by. So films, animations, and manhwa or comics, as well as my admiration for movies like Mad Max. And as for the car chase scenes, one of my very favorite animations that I saw as a child was Maha Go Go Go, the English title being Speed Racer. And in that series, you see the young boy driving a car that has these very unique and original functions. So I wanted to have that kind of image in Peninsula with the young girl driving the car as well. And if you look at the Japanese anime Akira by Katsuhiro, you will know that, that story also has those elements reflected in Peninsula as well.
But is it a coincidence that films have young girls at the center?
뭐 사실은
And when you look at post-apocalyptic films, because they draw the world of literally post-apocalypse, you can see that it portrays the story of the fallen generation and the fallen world. And so I think that element in the film Peninsula can be represented by the army that has lost complete authority and public power. And in such a world, I believed that young kids, because for them, post-apocalypse is the norm for them, so that is a world that they know as they know better than
Their
the
world,
world. They would be better survivors, and they would adapt much better to that world compared to adults. So at the very initial stage of really thinking about what Peninsula would be like, I started out from that very image of a young girl driving a huge car and being a survivor in that world.
In the end, she says that the world that we are going away from, I didn't
so bad.
think it was so bad. It wasn't so bad. She says that.
Yeah. Anurag, why do you think that we don't have many homegrown zombie films? Why has this genre eluded Hindi cinema completely?
I think people are trying. They've made one or two. There's been in the
few.
South, and they are very few. But
Yeah.
but also, it's not really about just a zombie films in the sense. There's such a strong statement sometimes filmmakers make, in the sense like his film, especially like when you see Seoul Station, which is the beginning, and you don't know where it starts from, which is the beginning, Seoul Station, and it ends with a very strong political statement of police versus the state versus public, and they're caught between this extremists and the police, and for me that totally blew me. And then when you see I saw Seoul Station after seeing Train to Busan. So, and then Train to Busan, when you see the way it begins with that deer that kind of gets up.
Fantastic.
It makes such a strong statement at the industrial wastage and the protagonist who is that middleman that we kind of so abhor, who makes money, makes profits, swindling money, and in the end, the film beautifully connects him to where it started from. We are witnessing a world today in India. When this world, we pass that, we'll have the zombie movies.
We've got enough now. We've got enough material. You know, your films, both these films, the zombies are devices actually that show how terrible people are. You know, the worst villains in those films are not the zombies, they're the human beings, because especially in Peninsula, they're vicious, they are brutal, they are greedy, and yet both films end on a note of hope. Why is it important to leave the audience with hope?
그 전에 제가 만들었던 돼지왕이나 사이비 같은 작품들은
If you look at my previous works, including The King of Pigs as well as The Fake, because they were relatively small budget films, and also I would assume that people who would watch these pieces would be film junkies. However, when you look at Train to Busan and Peninsula, I thought that it was going to reach a more wider and universal audience. And if that was the case, I had to think about what message do I want to convey to them. And I wanted to convey a message that was more positive and more universal for the general audience. I think, all things entail a certain amount of universal elements and some elements that are not as universal. And I think that based on how and as well as the format of film distribution, you are able to tell different types of stories.
You know, both of you are very versatile directors. You have both directed shorts, features. Director Yeon, you've done animation. You are also an actor. What does it take to be such versatile artists? How do you adjust to that specific medium that you're working in?
기본적으로는 저 같은 경우는 그냥 되게 프리랜서라고 생각을 하고 좀 어떤 플랫폼에 따라서 이야기할 수 있는 방식들이 좀 굉장히 많이.
I like to think of myself as a freelancer. So I think depending on what platform I'm telling my story, it allows for different types of stories to be told. I've done indie animations and also blockbuster films. And this year, actually, at the beginning of the year, I wanted to become a writer for a drama series. So the English title is The Cost. That was a series that I created during this year. And then at the beginning of this year as well, with a very close and long-time friend of mine who is a comic artist, we created a comic series together too. So when I do all of these different types of creative formats, I think the scope of the story that can be told is different for each format. And through this type of experience, I find myself being making it a lot easier for me to choose what kind of format and platform I want to select when I have a great idea. And another aspect of it is that because I do these different types of formats, I feel like each one gives me sort of an emotional break from the former one. So it's kind of a healing and recovering process as well. And it gives me new energy.
Nice. Anurag, does it do it for you also? Give you a sort of time?
I just love being at it and keep doing things. And I want to tell stories and I want to see stories. I don't know anything else. I don't know what else to do. But can I ask two questions?
Yes.
Director, the first question is, how can I see all your short films? I have not seen your animation shorts and I want to get access to them. So.
단편 애니메이션. 일단은 제가 처음에 만든 단편 애니메이션이 지옥이라는 작품이 있는데.
As for all of my short animation films, there's this one. This is the very first animation that I created. I did it back in college. The title is Hell. And actually you can find that on YouTube, but it's been uploaded in an illegal way. So I just want to let you know. And also in terms of an animation that I wrote and directed, there's the one that's titled The Senior Class. This is available through Netflix in Korea, but I don't know how it is in India. So that's something we would have to check.
Yeah. And another, like, there's a very big, you've been doing animation for so long. What made you or gave you confidence to jump from animation to live action when you did Train to Busan?
한국은 사실은 게 애니메이션 산업이 좀 큰 편이 아니었어요. 그리고
Well, at the time, the animation industry in Korea was relatively very small. And especially adult animation, I would say that it was near non-existent. So and in fact, I directed 3 adult animations, and then I produced 2, so I have a total of 5. And I knew that I won't be able to continue doing only animations for adults, realistically speaking. So, and also I had some proposals to do live action films. So I think I just always knew that one day I would have to make the move, and that was how it all came together when we were planning for Train to Busan.
Anurag, can I ask a question?
Yes.
I love that you're doing my job. It's great.
I just needed to know my curiosity.
Of course, of course. Director Yeon, you said in an interview that now theaters will have to move towards, the action genre, move towards more experience-oriented cinema. Anurag, do you also see it like that? Where do you think we're going to be at the other end of this pandemic? Where do both of you think cinema?
I agree what he's saying, because cinema will become much more experience oriented. It will be like event films that will last longer in cinemas, and they have to be really, really good and really thought through and really massive budgets. And the more intimate experience and personal experiences will come closer to the people. They'll watch it on small screen, or they'll set up, like I have set up my own cinema at home now. So I can watch films here, and everybody is making apps. Every studio is making apps where you can really, through the apps, get to see the film. I think that looks like the future.
저는 사실은 이제 예전에 일본 애니메이션을 되게 어렸을 때 좋아했어가지고, 근데 일본 애니메이션 산업이 이제 일본이 버블 경제 시대 때는 아주 거대한 예산의 이제 일본 애니메이션들이 많이 제작이 됐는데요. 아키라 같은 게 이제 대표적인 예죠. 근데 사실은 그런 것들을 보완제로서 이제 OVA라고 하는 오리지널 비디오 애니메이션.
From when I was very young, as a kid, I have always been a big fan of Japanese animation. And during the bubble economy of Japan, they were able to put in massive amounts of money in creating animation pieces. And for example, Akira is a good example of that. And then after that, to complement that, OVAs or original video animations were all the rage. And I think that these all have allowed for the birth of very unique Japanese animation works, and it has contributed greatly to the Japanese anime industry and world as we know it. And I think that could also be the case today. I believe that theaters and OTT services can definitely complement each other, and I believe that that could be our future.
I hope so too. I hope that they can coexist, and for people like us, the viewers, there's nothing better than that. Anurag, I have to end with asking you, has meeting him and watching his movies maybe inspired you to go to the zombie route?
I'm a massive fan of and more so also of his animation. Like his animation is very stark and very affecting, and the kind of adult animation we don't see. I have tried my hand at animation at Hanuman, very bad attempt. And I wish we can do things that he's doing here. I'm so happy to have met him here. And maybe I'll definitely, I have a zombie script written, but I know I can't make it today. So I'm going to wait out to make it. And it's politically possible to make that film.
저 같은 경우에는 사실은 요즘에 저희 친한 최규석 작가하고 같이 이제 만화를 만들었는데요.
Recently, a very good friend of mine and the comic artist Choi Gu-sik, he and I created a comic series. And in Korea, what we call webtoons has become a very big industry and a major industry. And in the world of webtoons, having them be very colorful visually is the trend. However, our recent work is done all in black and white, and we paid homage to all of the things that we loved as children. And actually, this work is out as in the format of webtoons, as well as it's a published book now. So to see the book especially and hold it in my hand, I was really excited and very happy to see it, because it was the very format and the very style that we so loved as children.
Well, Director Yeon, I hope Peninsula is just the first. It's just the beginning, and I hope we can access far more of your work. You have a great champion in Anurag, who is going to put out all your movies and talk about it everywhere. And I hope someday we can welcome you in India.
Thank you for that, and I really hope that with my next film, I'd be able to visit India and meet you guys in person.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And thank you
absolutely.
so much, Anurag.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Yeon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Anurag Kashyap. If you like this interview, subscribe to Film Companion.